All right, so welcome to our session, our little pop-up session this morning to introduce you to our Insights and Innovation Lab here at Lockton Companies. Megan Sowa is joining me, and she's an innovation consultant in our newly created Insights and Innovation Lab. Megan came to Lockton in March of this year with over 15 years of experience working with employers and coaching startups on a mission to improve care quality, equity, and cost. Megan has spent the majority of her career in consulting, but has also held positions in research as well as with vendor solutions in the employee benefit space. I'm excited to have Megan join us because, as I have shared with her, when I joined Lockton 2 years ago, I definitely understood and loved the fact that we are progressive and forward thinking, have a number of resources and tools that are very unique in our space. But I was fascinated by this idea that we had this ability to innovate and have a lab that is connected to benefits. And I think it's really an incredible insight to be able to share with our friends and our clients that we are continually looking down the road to predict what our clients will need next to be able to serve their businesses and their employees better. I'm Danielle Houston. I am a consultant here at Lockton Companies, and you'll notice as we talk about our organization on the employee benefits side, we are transitioning to talk about that and be a people solutions organization. We recognize that the work that has been attached to employee benefits has evolved well outside of renewal spreadsheets, managing carriers and vendors. Our clients have needed and expected much more from us over the last decade and certainly in the last few years. And I think all of you too who work with humans in your workplace recognize the fact that your work is also really about people. So we believe very strongly that our transition to be people solutions accurately reflects the work that we do to help our clients with all of the things connected to your people, whether that might be surveys, your renewal work around your employee benefits programs, HR consulting, HR technology, data. It is under our umbrella, and we are well equipped to help our clients do that. Our Washington presence is relatively new. In fact, 2 years ago is about the time our office opened here in Washington. Lockton Companies is still a privately held firm, and we are very proud of that because over the years, being privately held has been something that has just gone away with mergers and acquisitions across the space of brokerage. And interestingly enough, when Lockton was founded in 1966, it was done so by a man named Jack Lockton out of Kansas City, who really didn't like the fact that there was consolidation already happening among brokerages and consulting firms. And he felt very strongly that the only way to take good care of clients was to stay independent, to not consolidate, spend the time to get to know your customers, and then bring them the solutions that they need. And I still don't believe he would ever have imagined how insightful and almost prophetic that was, because the consolidation has just continued, and that message and his desire to continue an organization that remains independent and puts the client first is really what keeps us independent and makes us very unique. And the Lockton family believed in 2020 that this was the year to introduce the Washington market to our capabilities, that Washington was ready and needed great service and innovative ideas. And here we are. So my team in Washington includes a number of really smart, experienced people. And when I say my team, I mean like our organization of People Solutions is a wonderful collection of people and background working really well together to take great care of clients, and we also take great care of each other. Happy to introduce and connect any of you to them. And with that, I want to turn it over to Megan, because she's the star of the show, and I've promised not to make a commitment like her and her team are solving all of the healthcare problems in this country, but they might be able to help us with a couple of them. So Megan, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and good morning, everybody. As much as I would love to solve all of the world's problems, we're definitely not going to be able to do that. But the goal of the lab is to at least solve, some of the more pressing issues that we know employers and our clients are dealing with. And as Danielle mentioned, trying to be proactive and get ahead of some of those problems so that we're better able to address them. So through the next 20 minutes or so, our goal is really to educate you all on our new function here at Lockton that's designed to help us more efficiently harness expertise and ideas across our series that will in turn help our clients develop strategies and help you implement those solutions that attract and retain talent, manage your costs, and really promote employee well-being. Danielle also talked about the move to People Solutions, and we really feel strongly about, having the employee at the center of a lot of what we do. So, as mentioned, I am a member of the new Insights and Innovation team. We put together a quick little slide to kind of show you who we are and give you a fun fact. I love using this picture that my daughter drew of me, so hopefully you're enjoying how she views me. Speaking of views and perspectives, I feel like that kind of that plays a big role in what we're trying to do with the lab. We are a small team, and we are bringing decades of experience and perspectives, but we don't have every single perspective there is in the market. So there's a lot of activity, and we've created a process that helps us leverage expertise from across the companies and, really develop set of criteria that help us, apply this to solutions when we're talking to employers, collaborate across our internal teams, and, evaluate outcomes and impacts. I think to illustrate this, I'm going to kind of skip over to the next slide, because I really think that this gets at the heart of what we do. So we joke that we are collaborators in chief here in the lab.
Did I do that? I'm sorry.
That's okay. The primary function we have is truly through this collaborative effort. And one of these days, I'm going to make a game out of how many times we say collaboration in this presentation. But we are structured internally and externally to be able to kind of harness all of those perspectives, expertise. We want our clients to depend on us to keep them up to speed on what's happening in the market, identify those trends, as much as possible, get in front of those phone calls that I'm sure you all are receiving from vendors about, here's our new solution and this is why you should be thinking about it. So we're bringing everything together, and we're doing that through, all of the various specialty teams that you see on this slide. So within Lockton, we have what's called a health risk solutions practice. So each of our series have a team of experts that are really dedicated to population health management. They're well-being specialists. Some of them do have a clinical background, but we're very tied into that team to really help us understand, what are some of the trends in claims, where are some of the pain points for our clients that we need to think about some new solutions for. Our core teams. So these are our day-to-day client account managers, executives, producers. Obviously, they are very connected to our clients and employers. So it's important for us to stay close to them and gather their perspectives. We established an innovation champion network when we, officially launched at the beginning of this year. And the Innovation Champion Network is really a group of office leaders. Many HRS team members are part of this. We have representation from each of our different series. And the purpose is to help us influence strategy and priorities for the lab. So we meet with this group on a monthly basis, and we provide them with some updates on what we're seeing. And in turn, they provide us with insights about what they're seeing and hearing across their regions. And they also help us disseminate our information across all of Lockton. So the Innovation Champions are a very new and very important part of what the lab has created. We also have very robust analytics, coming from competing firms. I can say that this is truly a differentiator for Lockton. We have actuaries on staff, and the lab works very closely with, we call it our InfoLock, which is our data warehouse where we can take in client information on claims and any partnerships that they have to really get a picture of how things are working. If there's a solution that's been implemented, is that having an impact? We have clinical teams. So these are doctors and nurses and folks that have practiced medicine that we can turn to really dig into outcomes with some of these digital health specific solutions. Does this make sense? Is this treatment actually warranted? Is this going to really improve the standard of care? Or is it, going to complicate things? So we are very connected to them as well. And already mentioned InfoLock, but I have to say, coming to Lockton, I have been mildly obsessed with the InfoLock data warehouse, because I just think it's so amazing how we can drill into some of these reports and get that full picture of what's going on.
And that might be just a great time to slide in there that InfoLock is a proprietary data warehousing system that we do access through another vendor, but it's been built around all of the data for all of our clients who we can, receive that claims experience from. So obviously we can't get claims experience for every client, but when we do, and it can feed into that system, not only can we tell our clients what are those top conditions that are driving outcomes within their plan, cost, health, combination of those, then we do engage these other teams who can bring very specialized solutions to target that, and it's measurable. Obviously, then that feeds into the teams like Megan's, where globally we can look at what are the big things that are impacting all of our clients, and how can we find, develop solutions that will help all of them. And then the benchmarking that comes alongside that, being able to help a client understand how their claims experience, what they're experiencing as disease or other conditions is, in comparison to those who are like them. So it is a very unique and really powerful system of data to help clients actually do something with it, because that's the piece I always come back to. Great if you have experience, great if you know where those trouble areas are, but now what? And I think you and your team are doing a spectacular job with this is what.
Thank you. Yeah. And actually you raise a good point, because even if we can't get claims, just having this set at, the book of business kind of aggregate view of, what are the things that we're seeing across Lockton clients, that's really powerful information too, that we use to help drive our priorities and where we focus. So, through these internal connection points, our external relationships, which I'll go into in a bit, again, that's how we are identifying the themes and trying to really make sense of a very confusing landscape. I'm wondering how many of you can relate to this image here, and just, what is going on here? These questions, I'm sure many of you have the same questions, but this is really what drives what we do. So there's tons of solutions. They're constantly evolving, consolidating, partnering, All of a sudden, we have PBMs in the mix of channel partnerships where you can sign up to gain access to a blood pressure program or fertility program. So there's just a lot of action that continues to happen in the market. And the role of the lab is to dig in and really understand the benefits and potential challenges, not only of specific solutions, but how our employers can access those solutions, because it really matters, especially when we're talking about, contracts and liability and data security. There's just a lot of things to consider. And quite frankly, the face this woman is making is, probably what we see most of our clients doing, because it's a lot. And we know that HR has more than just, health benefits to think about. So that's where we're here to try to make sense of what we know is very confusing.
And can I interject in that? I think my teammates within Lockton too would tell you, we get so many outreaches from so many different vendors. Anytime there's kind of this, I'll call it a trendy topic, and maybe that's not the best word for it, but there's usually some kind of hot button topic that's being talked about. We will be inundated with outreach from different vendors, and they all sound amazing, and if you have a demo with them, it looks great. But the truth is, when there's so many of them that kind of pop out of the woodwork, when you start peeling underneath it, you can discover there's maybe not a lot yet under the surface. And your team is doing a lot of that work to really vet out who is, what are they actually doing, and can they actually deliver what they are promising. And I think that, even for our clients, is a tremendous value.
Yes, and perfect segue into kind of the three pillars of what our team does. So first being that market insights, the client needs, the questions we're getting, what are the trends we're seeing in the market. When I talk about trends, we're keeping an eye on where investors are putting money into certain solutions or spaces. So we prioritize primarily based on what our clients are saying they need, but also, where we're seeing a lot of attention in the market. So an example right now, women's health, actually over the last year or so, women's health, especially for women over the age of 40. There's tons of solutions that are coming out now for menopause and helping women, who are past childbearing years, really manage their health. And I think this year we're really starting it to get commercialized. So that's an example of, something we've had our eye on, and now we're really digging into those solutions. And as we dig into those solutions, that takes us to our second pillar, vendor validation. How in the world do you validate these things? You're right, they sound great. I mean, they have fantastic salespeople and marketing teams who are putting together amazing presentations. But at the end of the day, when we get to that third pillar, is outcomes. Are they really delivering on what they say they can do? And it's hard. I will say this is not, we haven't, to the earlier point, solved the world's problems and developed this amazing process that is going to 100% of the time, get to the right answer. But we feel like we've at least established, a really good baseline process for how we validate vendors here at Lockton. And we do this through, some of that external research platforms. So where they are tracking investor money, and where we're tracking, maps of mergers and acquisitions, to get a sense of what are companies really doing, what are they evolving toward, is this something that's going to become a bigger trend, or is this something that's just kind of here to try to make some money and then maybe move direct to consumer. So we kind of start off with a funnel approach, which we have illustrated here. So we start off, looking at the hundreds of vendors, and we pay very close attention to, as a first line, are they viable? So we do leverage a third party who has been tracking this stuff for a number of years, and they've developed kind of it's a score, they call it, that tries to predict whether or not an early stage company is likely to become successful or a unicorn, meaning they have $1 billion or more valuation. So using that score, that's our first filter. And we say, okay, here are the ones that are, above the threshold of what we consider viable. Now, let's create our own proprietary scoring to do the next level. And the proprietary scoring is something that we have been working very hard on since the lab was established earlier this year. And this is it's not as detailed as a full-blown RFP, but what we're looking for is, do these solutions have experience with employers? Because we know that the employer market is very different than direct to consumer. So we're looking at the number of employer clients they have, the size of those clients, what is the employee experience like? Do they track NPS scores, or is it satisfaction surveys? We are also looking at data security. Do they have high trust? Do they have certain certifications that we know are very important to our clients? It's a very baseline review, I will say. This does not take the place of a client's data security review, but it's us filtering out. And then we take a look at outcomes, and that's that third pillar from the previous slide, and something that we are continuing to build, with our actuaries here at Lockton, and with our data analytics folks and InfoLock. So where we are today is our team is really digging into solutions who have peer-reviewed studies published, any sort of validation that they say they've achieved through a third party. We're really looking at that and saying, okay, that's great that you have it, but what exactly was reviewed? Because it's really interesting. Some solutions will claim to have peer-reviewed studies that prove their outcomes, and it actually just proves that the engagement modality, so mobile, for example, is a higher engagement than in person, and it didn't even get to whether or not it solved that health outcome piece. So those are the types of things that the lab is focused on today. And as we get more mutual clients with a solution, that's where we plan to leverage our internal analytics to say, okay, is it really having the desired effect among Lockton clients? And truly looking at outcomes at a client level and book of business level.
So on the topics that you are focused on now, are those the elements that came from InfoLock, or is it a combination of InfoLock and feedback from clients who are talking about what's important to them?
Yeah, both. Definitely a combination. Many of the things in the list, I'm sure those tuning in are nodding and saying, yep, these are things that we're seeing in our claims, and these are top priorities. Because they really are, and there's so many solutions. I would say, with the top three especially, there are hundreds of solutions out there claiming to be able to solve for these things. So those are the reasons why we have chose to kind of cover them first. And through our scoring, we are identifying those that we consider approved for Lockton. And our goal is, again, going back to future state, to proactively look at our clients' data and say, you know what, you really benefit from a musculoskeletal solution, specifically maybe a center of excellence, or something that's more on the preventive side. And then we've already identified the vendors who we feel can achieve that. And it'll be, we'll be able to come to our clients and say, hey, looking at your data, this is what we see. And here's the top 3 recommendations. So we avoid that, mass of hundreds of vendors that all have wonderful pitches. And we're just focusing on the ones that, based on our clients' demographics and philosophies, we can make better recommendations and better solution fit.
And I think, everyone who is with us this morning probably has an example of a time when they invested in a solution because it seemed right, it looked right. But if you don't know all of the questions to ask to vet, and if you don't have some of these other measurement pieces, it was a disappointing investment because you didn't get anything nearly what you expected or needed it to. And, you said it earlier, these decisions and the pieces that, an employer will put into place are, the primary need is to help people. And if it's not helping people and you're just flushing the money down, you can think about all the other things you could have done with that. So I think this ability to help an employer be really targeted with what they can invest and know that we can track and make sure they can help people with it should give a lot of peace of mind.
Yeah, and that's kind of where our health risk solutions team comes into play too, because they're the ones that are really paying attention to this on a daily basis. When something gets implemented, our ability to use analytics to track what's going on, if it's not performing, maybe we can identify the reason why and solve it without having to, get rid of the entire solution. Just the level of reporting that we have access to help us, make those decisions is really helpful. And, I think it's important to note too, that while the lab we are working on, our approved vendor list, and I'm saying approved because, it could change, right? These things evolve, and what is approved one day or maybe not approved one day could very easily be the next day. So it's kind of a constant, constant pulse on the market. We have to make sure that we are staying up to date with these changes. So that is a core to our function here. And then that allows our health risk solutions team to better do their job, which is really that population health management, focused on what types of things do we implement, how do we measure that once it's implemented. And yeah, so I think that again speaks to the collaboration of our team with other specialty teams across Lockton.
Love it.
So I guess in closing, we've taken trying to make everything look neat like this, right? Wouldn't it be nice if we could fit all of the solutions into these clean categories? We are working toward this, and obviously, we want to be here to make sense of a very confusing market. And to that end, I think I've seen a lot of moves to maybe partner with best solutions. And I'll just take this opportunity to explain that we're not necessarily looking to partner with one or a handful of solutions. There are so many out there. I mean, you can see a handful on this list, and a lot of them are wonderful. I mean, there's so many great things out there, and we're not here to say that these top 3 are the only ones you should be working with. We really pride ourselves on making that right fit. We want the solution to be the right solution for our clients, and we know that every client is unique. Your populations have different needs, different demographics, and we are here to help just identify the solutions who are doing what they should be doing, demonstrating those outcomes, and then, really letting you all work with your core teams to determine which exact solution is best for you. So maybe I'll just state a couple more examples maybe of how we're working on this currently. Virtual primary care is a space that many of you have probably been hearing more about. Sounds very similar to telemedicine. So one of the things the lab has been doing, and we plan to publish very soon, actually, developed a point of view on, what is virtual primary care? Who are the vendors in this space? And, should employers care? That's the biggest question. When you hear about a trend, a new buzzword, it's the first thing we ask ourselves is, should employers care about this? And we kind of break it down, talk about the benefits and, some of the things that might already be in place today through an employer's program that could either complement or, maybe not with a particular solution. And, create materials to educate our consultants who can educate our clients, and also create some client-facing materials that just help you understand what these things are so that you're better able to make a decision as to whether or not it fits with your business strategy or with your overall philosophy.
And I think also noting that, does it fit in with your employees, which is the other element that an employer needs to consider of the options they look at. Where are your people? How do they access information? What are their backgrounds? What will really be a good fit for the culture and the people of your organization? So I love the fact that we don't put all of those eggs in one basket, but really help to filter through those pieces and make the recommendation on the right fit, like you said.
Yeah, and we always close with independence changes everything and talking about how Lockton remain independent. And that, quite honestly, is what is going to make the Insights and Innovation Lab unique from other consulting firms and different things in the market, because we really have the ability to change very quickly. And we could be going down one path and decide, what, nope, it's better if we change and go this way. And the flexibility and the way that we're able to do that, I think, is what is going to help us be successful. Because as the market changes very quickly, we too need to be able to change and adapt very quickly in order to make the best recommendations for our clients. So that is the Innovation Lab.
Thank you. Well, one of the questions that came in ahead of time was around mental health. And I would say the question wasn't very specific. It was more like, hey, everyone's talking about this. We're concerned about this as an organization. Would love to hear what Insights and Innovation Lab is, thinking in that space.
Yeah, we are actually working with our clinical teams right now to dig into that space and to dig into the vendors in that space. So definitely top of mind. COVID just really, I think, pushed people over the edge when it comes to the need. And of course, we're seeing a lot of burnout. Talent retention is a top priority among many of our clients. And then, helping people and their well-being, because mental health really comes down to overall well-being. And as far as solutions go, there are hundreds, anywhere from your meditation and resiliency, think Calm app and things like that, where it's a lot of direct to consumer and some very easy plug-in solutions, to all the way on the other end of the spectrum where you have more clinical based. So therapy, the ability to prescribe medications. And I think what it comes down to for employers is, reviewing what you have today. So many employers have an EAP. A lot of medical carriers are starting to include behavioral health telemedicine solutions as a standard offering. So it's really getting a handle of what is there today and how are employees using it. So that employee-centric approach again, how are employees using what's there? If they're not, is it because it doesn't resonate with the group or they don't know about it? So, kind of taking a look at whether or not we need more education around it to direct people, or we actually need to look at a new solution. And I'll say a lot of employers are really gravitating toward the complete clinical solutions, and they're looking at them from like an EAP replacement perspective, because they offer the sessions and they typically partner with EAPs to offer that on-site critical support, as needed. And they do have some resources for, self-service education, apps for the, meditation mindfulness, and they tend to cover the full spectrum. So I would say a lot of employers are looking in general for solutions that can check a lot of boxes, but, not just check the box, but truly solve that problem for employees. So hopefully
Right.
that helps. I know mental health is that's a big one.
It is. And it would be worth noting too that our health risk strategies group has long been in the trenches too of evaluating what are you doing today? Where are some, let's call it easy ways to round out some of what could be a gap, and then evaluate, is there a need for something, to your point, more clinical, more broad? And then, their evaluation and experience and working with broker or with different vendors across different spaces has been very helpful in making a recommendation for a solution that will be a better fit than maybe going to the first or second vendor that you might see a lot of, who promotes on LinkedIn or who's been blasting your inbox. So they have a really, what I would say is a beautiful way of like, where can we first make some enhancements that maybe it won't cost anything, maybe it's a very small investment, to then building out what might be needed on a much more a much deeper level.
Yeah, yeah, our health risk team is definitely, they are the strategists when it comes to this topic and many of the other clinical topics.
So I would invite, for those of you who maybe do have questions, or if you would like to ask a question, I can pop this open and allow people to talk and ask questions, and I'll go ahead and just do that. Otherwise, I don't want to hold people any longer out of jumping in and tackling whatever might wait for you on the other side of today. I would invite you all to put October 12th on your calendar. We will be gathering in the fall in person. You'll hear more from this team around employee engagement and solutions that impact the whole employee, and get a little taste for what we internally have called a lock tank, which has been a fun take on the Shark Tank for internally for our people to get really familiar with the different vendors, and to hear from those who've been vetted, so that we have a great grasp on who's doing what, and who's doing it well, and hear from them in a fun kind of a format where we can ask questions. And we're gonna bring that to our community here October 12th. So everyone should be able to unmute if you would like. If you don't have any questions this morning that you want to throw out here, that's fine too. You can reach out to me. There's also in our Seattle office, Ian Flatt, Jill Dugo, Paris Ramsey, Drew Butler. Those are some names of people that if you're not connected with them, you certainly can. They're on LinkedIn. They are incredible teammates, and we're doing everything we can to bring great service and great solutions to our Northwest market here. So if there's nothing else that we can help you with this morning, we'll wrap it up and look forward to connecting with you and seeing you in October. Thank you, Megan, very much for joining
Great, thank
us.
you. Have a great day, everyone.